Hello and welcome to My Finance Teacher. Today we're going to look at the price of gold, gold versus silver, as well as the miners in the form of GDX and GDXJ. The last two, gold versus silver and GDXJ, are thanks to some of the comments from the viewers. So starting with gold itself, daily chart of gold in front of you. And originally I thought that gold has given us already one intermediate cycle since mid-August that lasted for, well, about a month and a half. However, at the moment I'm not really sure that that was the first daily cycle, for a couple of reasons. This decline from the top at about 1216 all the way down to the bottom at about 1180 was not that severe. RSI basically stayed near neutral levels throughout all of that time. It didn't dip that considerably lower during that low near the end of September. So for that reason, as well as for the reason of lots of cycles kind of being stretched over the last couple of years, the recent cycle, for example, lasted for extraordinarily long time. So with cycles being kind of stretched, I wonder if this was the first daily cycle, or are we going to kind of see an extended daily cycle that is just about to finish relatively soon, which means it's entering the declining phase at the moment. If we will finish this daily cycle over the next couple of weeks, well, that's actually going to give us a daily cycle that lasts for, well, 3 months. And although it is pretty long, it is not out of the question to have a daily cycle that long. So now, given the possibility that we are still in that same daily cycle that's been going on for over 2 months already, we are kind of getting into the time frame when it's basically the cycle is due to enter its declining phase. So for that reason I expect gold to slide down over the next probably a couple of weeks. And how far down will it slide? Well, there is this 50-day moving average. That is one of the possibilities in terms of price target for gold price over the next couple of weeks. So that would imply a decline of around $20 or so over the next couple of weeks. Also, if we, well, let's throw in the Fibonacci retracement numbers from this low to the high, the recent high that we had 4 days ago. That 50-day moving average is just between 50% and 38% retracement. 50% retracement seems plausible enough. So a decline all the way down to 1200 plus, it's a very round number psychologically, that might prove to be some support level, plus it might have some sort of magnetic appeal. So there's also a high probability price might actually slide down all the way down to 1200. And also, if we have a look at this channel that gold has been in over the last couple of months or more, since mid-August, again, as you see, that is just another indication that if gold continues to oscillate within that same channel as it's been doing over the last several weeks already, then a decline all the way down towards 1200, 1205, 1204 is quite likely. What is also likely is a decline a little bit further down, well, let's say 1180 or so, because a declining phase of an intermediate cycle often breaks the uptrend line of that cycle. So a decline below 1200 is also quite a possibility. So what I'm hoping for is that over the next couple of weeks that will give us the end of this daily cycle, and after that we're going to enter the advancing phase of the next daily cycle. Well, I guess that might bring us close to around 1280 or so, and beyond that I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. Of course, on the way to possible 1280, there will be some volatility, especially with a possible Fed rate hike near the middle of December. But this is basically my general view on where gold might move over the next sort of couple of months. Next, I want to have a look at a couple of questions that I've got from the viewers, one of them being a comparison between price movements in gold and silver, and whether it's true that silver price movements often precede gold price movements. To be honest, I haven't looked at this in much detail, but according to my experience, I haven't really noticed much of evidence that silver does precede gold. Let's have a look at a weekly chart going back. Let's go back to end of 2015, because it seems that generally gold is sort of in an uptrend since end of 2015, and what's been happening to gold before that is quite different. So let's have a look at the last, that would give us nearly 3 years. And what I want to try to do on the weekly chart for gold and the weekly chart for silver is to try to find the very bottoms and tops of the intermediate cycles and see if silver precedes gold in either bottoming or topping out. Let's have a look at gold here in December or in November 2015. On the weekly chart, at least, we see a week of this candle reaching the lowest point over here, and that is the week commencing on the November 30th. If we look at silver, the lowest week is actually in this week, which is in December, which is the week commencing on December 14th. So it looks like silver does not precede gold in that bottom. However, if we look at the daily chart, that's a daily chart of gold in December 2015, the low in December seems to be lower than the low in late November. Where is that? Well, actually the low, if we're looking at the daily chart, the low in that week that started on the 30th of November is pretty close to the low that gold had in the middle of December, and the low in silver is also in the middle of December. So one might say that silver and gold kind of bottomed at same or similar time, without too much delay from silver itself. So moving on, the next top in gold on the weekly chart was in the week starting on the 2nd of May, and on the silver chart the top was in that same week. The next intermediate cycle bottom in gold was in the week starting on the 30th of May, and same for silver. The top of the next intermediate cycle for gold, early July, same for silver. The bottom for the next intermediate cycle, mid-December, 12/12, sort of mid-December for silver as well. That's next week, just a week after gold bottomed. A top in gold, there was a double top in the next intermediate cycle in gold, sort of in the middle of April and in early June. For silver, that top came a little bit earlier, sort of first half of April. So in that case, one might argue that maybe silver preceded gold in topping out in that intermediate cycle that lasted between mid-December 2016 to July 2017. The next bottom in gold was around early July. 3rd of July was the beginning of that week where gold bottomed. For silver, that is somewhat similar. Either this week or this week was the week where silver bottomed as well. So let's say something similar, but at least silver does not precede gold in that example in July 2017. Again, the top of the next intermediate cycle in gold happened in the week starting on the 4th of September 2017, and same thing for silver. The next bottom for gold happened in the week starting on the 11th of December, and similar thing for silver. It might actually precede gold a little bit in that case, but it's hard to argue. Very similar timing for the bottoming in the end of that intermediate cycle. And the recent top in gold, well, there was kind of a lot of choppiness, several kind of attempts at topping out around 1360, all the way between second half of January all the way down to sort of early April. And what do we see in silver? Something similar. Second half of January all the way down to, actually here it's much later, that's early June. Yes, we have a lot of choppiness in silver and sort of 1, 2, 3 attempts at topping out. And most recently in gold, we bottomed in the middle of August, in the week that started on the 13th of August, whereas in silver we see a bottom around early September. So actually silver was late compared to gold in the end of this recent intermediate cycle. So to sum up, as I answered in the comments to one of the previous videos, I don't really see silver kind of preceding gold that much, at least over the last 3 years or so, at least on the weekly chart. If you have some other opinions, let me know. I would be interested to have a look at some more details. And lastly, one more thing I want to have a look at is the miners, GDX versus GDXJ, because again, one of the viewers of one of the previous videos asked to have a look at GDXJ as well. I do sometimes look at GDX, and I don't think I've looked at GDXJ in my channel yet, but if I switch between these two daily charts for GDXJ and GDX, they both look pretty similar. The timings of the bottoms as well as the tops, at least on this daily chart going back to the beginning of 2018, is very similar, as well as the time when price breaks above or below this 50-day moving average. So actually pretty often whatever happens to GDXJ also happens, whatever happens to GDX also happens to GDXJ. For that reason I don't really spend too much time on each of them separately. I generally look at GDX. And looking at the miners, actually, again, as we mentioned, gold is ready to roll over into the declining phase of its short-term daily cycle, and investors actually might be expecting that, and that might actually be one of the reasons why miners are already breaking down a little bit more than gold has already done so. And besides that, on the daily chart for miners, we saw this breakout on the 11th of October, and well, breakouts, the gaps on charts, they often fill. So for that reason, I think miners are going to continue moving down, fill in that gap, and most likely go even below the area where they will have the gap filled. And well, let's have a look at Fibonacci retracement numbers, for example, because the miners are already at their 50-day moving average. And well, if let's say 62% or 78% retracement, 62 or 78% of this recent rally is retraced, then GDX has a potential to drop from around $19 where it is at the moment to 18.5, or even all the way down to 18 or so. Similar thing for GDXJ. Again, if a retracement of, let's say, 62 or 78% takes place, GDXJ is likely to drop from 28 where it is at the moment all the way down to around 27 or slightly below that. So that is my opinion. What do you guys think about it? What's your opinion? Share your opinion in the comments below. Remember to hit a like under the video. I would really appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and stay tuned for the next video. I'm thinking about having a look at S&P 500 again. I think something interesting might be brewing there. Have a nice day, and bye bye.